our meeting will start shortly. Please remember to adjust your microphones and speak into them so you can be heard clearly on the broadcast for our viewers at home. We will begin in a minute. Welcome, everyone, to the August 27th, 2024 City of Broussard Council meeting. Please silence your cell phones, and if anyone from the audience would like to make a comment on an item listed on the agenda, please fill out a blue or green card in the back of the room and turn it into our city clerk, Tina. Each speaker will be given a maximum of 3 minutes. Please rise for the pledge. Please join me in welcoming Mr. David Tilley from First Baptist Church of Broussard.
Heavenly Father, Lord, we just acknowledge you as our God here today. We thank you, Lord, for all your blessings. We thank you for this country that we live in, Lord, and for the freedom that we have here each and every day. Pray, Lord, you would just continue to bless our country, especially our city of Broussard, Lord. Just be with each and every man and woman here. I pray, Lord, that everything that happens here today will bring you honor and glory. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Item 2.1, acceptance of the minutes of the August 13th, which is a correction, 2024 regular meeting. Do we have a motion to accept?
Second.
The minutes were supplied in the council's packet. Tina, do we have public comment on this item?
No public comment.
Council discussion?
Question. District 1? Yes. District 2?
Yes.
District 3?
Yes.
District 4?
Yes.
District 5?
Yes.
At large?
Yay.
Motion approved.
Item 3.1, approval of the June 2024 financial report. Do we have a motion to approve?
Make a motion.
Second.
I did send an email to the council with the June financials a few days ago. That is the closing of our year, so it takes a little bit longer to get those in, but we'll probably have July ready to send to the council next month. Kristen, if you can help me remember the details, I forgot my paper that had the notes on it, but we are trending about 3% ahead of the total budget, I believe, for the end of the year.
Yeah, so we finished 3% total above the budget, and for general in 92, we ended with about 17 million, and then rec 4 million.
And that'll be the close of that year. We're going to refresh for July. By next meeting, we'll have that one prepared, but a good year overall for Broussard as far as income goes. Tina, do you have public comment?
No public comment.
Council discussion?
District 2?
Yes.
District 3?
Yes.
District 4?
Yes.
District 5?
Yes.
At large?
Yay.
District 1? Yes. Motion approved.
Other business, item 4.1. Montague and Domain Inc., Ibram, Balbisi Development, variance request for the development of South Morgan and Glen Street. Do we have a motion to approve?
Make a motion. Second.
So this item is on the agenda for some variance approvals and a look at the design. I know Councilman Bonan has requested some time to speak and make some comments. Councilman? We can do that? Okay, so we are going to go to blue cards and green cards. So Mr. Colleen Fall would like to address the council in opposition. Welcome, Colleen. Please come to the mic.
Hello, my name is Colleen Fall. I live at 407 South St. Pierre Street. And I understand that that y'all are wanting to, or that Ibrahim, the company is wanting to build 5 lots on these, 5 houses on this 3-lot space that is almost directly behind where my house is currently located. And I have concerns for the privacy of the people living on the other side of the fence. And I realize that there's no ordinance or anything to do with this, but I'm concerned about the placement of the windows of the houses that are going to be built there, in particular because I have a child at home with special needs who spends most of her leisure time in the backyard, and she's developmentally delayed, and she's got a lot of behaviors that are not typical for children her age, and her chosen activities and state of modesty are in question for the foreseeable future. And I'm concerned about people living in these houses on the other side of our fence who would be able to see in our backyard. And again, I realize that there's no ordinance there, but I'm wondering if there can be any consideration made for the placement of the windows on these buildings. And that's the other thing, I think there are some other people here who want to speak on this as well, but I'm also wondering about, I would like to understand the reason why it's my understanding that there's only planned to be about 6 feet in between these houses that are planning to be built. And we live on the other side of the fence, and there are 10 feet in between our houses. And even that, I mean, while it's a wonderful neighborhood, it's a great setup, even that seems like about as close as we would want it. So I'm wondering, why are we wanting to have such a dense placement of the houses on Morgan Street? And I'd like to know the reasoning for that. And that's kind of what I have right now.
Ms. Colleen, thank you. And I'm gonna defer to our city engineer because we're starting to talk about some details, and I just want accuracy for the meeting. Is it 5 houses? What is the spacing? Could you give us, Walter, an overview of the project as you see the design now?
Yeah, do you want me to just go over what the waivers, I think that kind of speaks to the heart of it. Without reading the entire report, the original proposal was for 6 units. It's on. Oh. The original proposal was for 6 units. They're now proposing 5 units. They're requesting a waiver. Our typical subregs require sidewalks along public streets in residential subdivisions, which would mean they would have built sidewalks along Glen and Morgan. They're requesting a waiver of that. In the Planning Commission approval, because these are waivers from the Planning Commission approval, we had requested additional right-of-way along Glen and Morgan, and they're requesting a waiver of granting the additional right-of-way. We had also requested 15-foot sidewalk drainage and utility easement along Glen and Morgan. These are all very consistent with what we normally do. They're requesting a waiver on that. One of the items is provide 25-foot fillets at the right-of-way intersection of South Morgan Avenue and Glen Street. And that's basically a turnout flare in the right-of-way. Right now, it's just square. We normally put what we call a fillet, a little curve. They're asking for a waiver of that. Under the current proposal, they're proposing some parallel parking along Morgan Avenue. And my comment says the parallel parking shown along Morgan Avenue must be lengthened to accommodate 2 vehicles in order to meet the parking requirements of the Old Town Special Overlay District. And that one I'm kind of insistent on. This would be a perfect place for delivery trucks, trash pickup, that type of thing. And then the current proposal shall require a side setback variance to accommodate 0 lot line homes with 6-foot side separation, which is speaking to her question. So essentially our typical setbacks on a home, the side setbacks from the side of the house to the property line is 5 feet on either side. What they do on a 0 lot line subdivision, which is not, that's fairly common, they push one of the walls of the house onto the property line and then put the setback on the other. The reason they're asking for a 6-foot setback is that if you reduce that setback less than 6 feet, you start having to have fire-rated walls. So another way to think of this, all they're doing is scooching them over and pushing them closer together. But they could also have said, we want to do a townhouse subdivision and put 5 units and have common walls. If they'd have done that, then they'd have put firewall. That's kind of not a huge issue in my mind, as long as they meet building codes. But it is a waiver from, if somebody wanted to do that, this was not approved as a townhouse development. It was, and we don't really have a provision in our subdivision regulations for 0 lot line. I personally don't have a problem with 0 lot line, and this is not uncommon what they're asking to do here.
Walter, just for a little more clarity on the entire development, it is 5 buildings, is that correct?
Yes.
5 buildings. They are 2-story buildings, or they are what you call camelback buildings.
Camelback shotgun is what they are called.
So not, the entire structure is not 2 stories. Half of the structure or
right, it's flat,
something like that.
Camelback.
So there would be potentially some rear-facing windows, which was one of your concerns. Just to make that clear, we are dealing with a 2-story structure.
Yes.
Any other details?
No, David, Councilman Bonan and I were talking before. Of course, if they're approved here, they still have to provide all the second layer of information, which would be to prove that they're not causing a drainage problem, show us how they're going to hook to water, sewer, all that. This is essentially what we're doing tonight is an extension of the Planning Commission approval for preliminary plat and Old Town Overlay District.
Right, because variances are required as the plan is designed now. The council has to approve that, are they?
And like I mentioned, if they add more parallel parking on Morgan, they meet the Old Town requirement for 4 parking spots per unit.
Okay, so anybody that's not familiar with what Walter's mentioning, Broussard a few years ago instituted an Old Town Overlay District and a Main Street Overlay District as a guard and protection for our historic areas in Broussard with the smaller roads. Our infrastructure is much older along Main Street, this whole area. So requiring more parking was one of the things that we put in because you can't park on the skinny streets in the old Broussard. Creating larger buffers was one of the things we did on structures. A lot of it has to do with businesses that might want to build and kind of suck up a lot because it's mixed use here. But there are layered protections. you know, the council came together to kind of create that, and it has been effective. And you know, with the Main Street redevelopment we've been doing, we have been seeing a lot of good new developments come up, but also some new challenges. So, I know you asked a couple of questions. I just wanted the information out there for everybody, and I'll hold my comment.
Well, how many variances are they asking for?
I'm counting 5.
Ms. Colleen,
Yeah.
if you feel like
Yeah.
you're at a stop point, we'll call the next speaker up.
Okay. All right.
We'll still try to get you an answer on your questions. We're taking notes.
Okay.
Next up is Miss Judy Keefe. You didn't mark if you wanted to address the council, Miss Judy, but
I did, Mark, one of the things I want to do was ask questions. What are the variances? What
Sure.
are the specifics? What are the plans looking like? That kind of a thing.
yes, ma'am,
So
please.
I was really glad to hear Mr. Como giving us that information. And can you tell me, what do you mean when you say the variance of a right-of-way on Glen and Morgan? What does that mean?
Some of the variances that they're requesting at this point are variances of ordinances.
Right,
Some of the variances that they're asking are variance from the approved planning commission.
right.
So
That's what a
the
waiver is, yeah.
the right of way, the right of way part of it is,
What does that mean? Yeah, what does that mean specifically in this instance?
the right of way. So the standard for open ditch right of way is 60
Open
feet.
ditch, right?
Open ditch right of way, where it's not piped in.
Okay,
The standard is a 60-foot right of way for that. The standard for a right of way that's curb and gutter or piped in ditches is 50 feet. So we had asked for additional, half of the deficient additional right of way, because the other half would come from the other side if it ever developed. And that was to get the right of way to modern standards. Then the other thing that we have been requesting is 15-foot sidewalk drainage and utility easements. Our older standard was a 10-foot utility easement. We've since then, because of the Public Works Director requested that we get bigger utility easements, because we have so much more underground infrastructure in modern times. So we're typically asking for more. So those two things are waivers of the approval they got from the planning commission. They're not waiver of an
They want 10
ordinance.
feet rather than 15 feet, 50 feet rather than 60.
Essentially what they're asking is to keep everything like it is.
Like the old way.
Yeah, well, like it currently exists.
Does that,
Much different than they used to be. Now it's not just water, a water line and a sewer line. I mean, you've got
Yeah.
3 or 4 different, like Cox, AT&T, all of those people are in there, fibers in there, you know, and it causes Public Works a strain. So we
Right.
just try to get that extra 5 feet so we have a little more
Right.
room to work when something
Yeah,
goes wrong, and
we're
inevitably
dealing
it
with
will.
that. Yeah, we exactly know exactly that is an issue. So for sure. So what they're saying is try not to have the newer codes complied with in that thing.
Well, to make their project work, they need the room that we would be taking for the additional utility easement and additional right of way. It makes it harder to make what they're trying to do.
And I know something's going to be built there. You know, we who live there, like, oh, it's nice to not have anything back there, but that's unrealistic to think that they're not going to build. Somebody's going to build something there. So, and we're happy that somebody wants to do something, and I'm sure that they're going to do it modern and nice and those kind of, ooh, so sorry. Anyway, so that's good, but the thought of, okay, let's keep everything at the old standards that need to be upgraded when they're doing this, and this is irreversible once they do it. So that's a concern of mine, is this really smart to allow this when I think this is only going to become a bigger issue rather than a smaller issue of needing to have those access to all of that kind of stuff. The other thing is, and someone was saying this may actually be a city issue rather than a builder issue, that the turnouts from coming off of Glen onto Morgan, it's already so tight that if they're going to build their stuff into here, maybe it's even the city that needs to widen the entranceway to Glen Street, that might be on the city as opposed to on the
You're correct, and
builder.
that refers to the fillets Walter was asking for. We need some space to be able to do that, extend the
The
culvert.
fillets and increasing the right-of-way width, because I believe. I'm
It
going
is
by
very
memory.
tight. You
I
have to go into the far lane to make the turn.
Yes, you do. And when we've got an ambulance or a fire truck which come in,
Sure.
you know, they have to sit and walk 3 blocks because there's no way. Garbage trucks come in, lawn people come in, you know, UPS trucks come in. We've got a semi that comes in from Gerard's Nursery.
Right.
It's like all of that stuff is already crazy.
We do have an intention, though, if the development moves forward in some way, multi-use way, we've got to improve that intersection. We need space to do it, but I think it's the right thing for a city to do.
Okay, so what I'm saying, I guess my question is, so that will be addressed, even if it's not said today how it's going to be
Yes,
addressed?
ma'am, but that falls more on the city than the developer. It's, you know, it's our road. We'll
Okay.
work on our,
Okay.
we don't allow a private person to work on city
Right,
property.
right. I am in agreement with Colleen about the 6 feet in between. And this goes to the ambiance of Old Town Broussard, the character, the Cajun flavor, the Old Town stuff. We're putting in brand new stuff, which I don't think is bad. In fact, you want to put nice things in if you're going to build something.
sure.
So I'm not at all opposed to that. But the idea of having the density be so tight. And again, you're assuring us that the drainage, the sewage, the water supplies, everything will be okay, even if they have 5 houses.
Well, they have to supply a professional engineering study on drainage that our city engineer will then review and approve.
Okay.
And it'll be stamped by, you know, their engineering firm. That's undetermined yet. We don't get to that stage until they have approval, this sort of approval. Then they'll have to turn it in. If they can't meet it, we got a problem.
So
They
the
have to meet it.
possibility is, in my opinion, ideally, on the 3 lots, put 4 houses, not 5 houses. 6 houses, I think, was absolutely unreasonable. Back to back was not, and again, the idea of changing, not that the street is the most beautiful street in the world, let's be realistic, okay? There are lots of older buildings, but the nice thing is that there are so many, there have been so many gradual improvements, and people are improving the properties on Morgan. Morgan and Maine are what people see when they come to Broussard. And so to have something that totally is incongruent with everything else on the street is a concern to me.
Sure.
So that, I think, is an issue, and I think the fact that putting 5 in a row doesn't fit with the spacing and the character of the street. So I would prefer, not that it is necessarily something that would need a variance for, but I think it does with the 6 feet instead of the 10 feet between houses. The 6 foot and the more of a patio home type effect. I think the perfect answer is 4 houses rather than 5. So,
Well, but thank you, Ms. Judy, for your comments.
okay, great. Thank you for answering my question.
We also have a card wishing to address the council from Michael Keefe.
All right. This is my 3rd time here, so I'm starting to get to know folks, I guess. The last time I was here, I brought with me probably 30 plus, I forget. I assume that somewhere in your records there is, I brought from the neighborhood 30 letters. I've got a letter in my hand. I've got pictures. The problem is density. The problem is this part of Little Broussard getting in and out of it, parking. I've got pictures from neighbors. It is daunting to think that 5 new structures, and again, the way they proposed the parking is, as I understand it, the parking would be behind, and that means they've got to come in and out of Glen Street. And if you live there, the density and the parking and the flow of traffic is already just, I mean, like my neighbors and myself, we're looking at this thing and we're just going, oh my goodness, how is this going to work? You already have emergency vehicles, garbage trucks, FedEx trucks, and everything. And so the notion of putting 5 more, and then when we were told they can't park on Morgan Street, so now I've got pictures and neighbors who have come and said, well, where do we, I mean, I live off of Morgan Street on the other side, and there's no real parking on the street. And so people naturally come in, Gerard's, I've got another neighbor who's got, and so people are walking blocks to get back and forth, and that's already. And so when I hear, oh yeah, well, we'll fix Glen Street and everything, but if that's not a real convicted commitment, then there are real issues. I mean, there are real issues from the neighbors in the neighborhood. I mean, we brought real concerns and real people. And so I guess if it was proposed, what we knew there was always going to be development. That's not the issue. But it was like a 2-lot area, and then a 3, and then a 6, and even now a 5. And so I guess if it was a 3 or a 4, there'd be less concerns. But even with 3 or 4, when you can't park on Morgan Street, when you can't have people who are pulling in, so there's people on Morgan Street and they can all pull in. So we don't get that overflow of traffic into our neighborhood. So there's just real concerns. I mean, I've got a little letter here from one of my neighbors, and it's just all the same thing. This little district, it's not comfortable via public roads, service vehicles, ambulances, mail trucks, safety. All of these things are just real concerns. So I can tell you with certitude that the neighbors in the neighborhood are really concerned, and I suspect that a number of them are here. Okay, anyway, that's the density issue, the number of proposals, things, then all the variances that are needed, and you got rules, and they've all got to be varied. I don't know, it's a concern.
No, we appreciate you taking the time to come and make public comment. Mel, I mean, there was a question about, I'm going to describe it as the city's ability and commitment to at least improve the intersection. You're our public works director. It doesn't seem like that would be a huge challenge for the city to widen, add some culverts on each side, widen the apron at Glen Street and Morgan to make at least that more comfortable, whether this development happens or not, because it is very tight.
Yeah, no, we can definitely do that. We just need the room to be able to do it.
We don't have the right of way right now, which is one of the things Mr. Como is requiring in his comments, that we need that little extra space to be able to do that. So on public record, ma'am.
Walter, I have a question. When on St. Pierre, when the single-story houses were being built, if you're looking at from Gerard's all the way to the right, was any of this brought up about traffic?
Oh, here we go. Yeah, it was, but we didn't have a mechanism. What led to the special overlay district, that was kind of the first one we saw. And I don't remember, were you on the council when those were built, right? But that was David's district. Yeah, and I mean, I remember at the time talking to the developer, kind of being the go-between. But that was kind of the first development we saw of that type. And as time went on, we started seeing more. And then I think David Angel had this idea of doing this special overlay district to kind of help out, protect the old part of town. Yeah. Yeah. We we didn't handle it then because we didn't have a mechanism to.
Well, it's not peaches and cream right now. Before this bill, it's not nice. Glen Street is 17 feet wide, grass to grass. Y'all see these pictures I just took this today. Well, this guy parked right here, even if it's for 5 minutes, what if they got an ambulance or a fire truck has to go down there? 17 feet wide, that's substandard road on the deer lease, much less in the middle of town. Look, y'all got copies of them?
We have more speakers. Madison Barbosa. Welcome.
Hello. I've grown up in this town. I remember when it was a one stoplight town. I love it. I like the old time feeling of it coming from Butlers and Henderson. I spent my life here, and now it seems to be turning into an overpass town, like you see just stopping on your way to, say, Florida. Broussard is losing its magic with all the development, especially in our little area. The 2-story buildings that would be there so close together would not fit the aesthetic anymore at all whatsoever. And that goes along with the planning and all the things that you were speaking with. And I don't want to lose that. If I ever have kids, I want to raise up in the Broussard that I grew up in. That's still almost here, but slowly disappearing. I don't want it turning into an overpass town. Thank you.
Ms. Lynn Barbosa did not wish to address the council, but wanted to make her opposition known. Thank you. And Mr. George Bro did not, do you want to address the council? Please, I'm gonna ask you to come forward so we can get it on the record.
I might have misunderstood. I thought you were saying that would be parallel parking on Morgan Street for delivery trucks and stuff, or?
Well, it'll be for anything,
I know, but.
but yeah, there'll be, I
And then
think,
I think Mike was saying about parking behind the place too.
we, under this, Old Town Overlay District, they have to have 4 parking spots per unit. And to achieve that, they need to put 2 parallel in front. But, which is all fine and good, but I really want the parallel in front for deliveries, that type of thing.
As part of the, will the developer be required to present some sort of study to see what effects it's gonna have on the Morgan Street is very heavy in traffic almost all the time, especially in the morning and the evenings. Will y'all conduct some sort of traffic study too to determine what would work?
Well, the proposal they have here, the entrance to the development would be Morgan. It would be a one-way alley and come out on Glen. The only, and then you'd have parallel parking along Morgan. Honestly, that's not enough traffic to really trigger a traffic impact study, but I prefer the fact that they'll be entering from Morgan and exiting on Glen than the other way around.
Okay, well.
I got a question. After this is built, you really think these people are gonna say, well, we gotta go in out Glen and we gotta go in Morgan? They're gonna go in and out like they please. And once it's built, it's built. It's done. But them people that are gonna live there, they live in this far one, you don't think they're gonna wanna, and they're going this way. They're not gonna, it's not gonna happen. It's just, you live in a pipe dream. They're gonna go in and out the way they wanna go in and out.
That is the last card I had for public comment.
I'm gonna ask you, since you're the highest ranking fire officer here, what do you think about the safety aspect of this?
It's not uncommon, like Walter said, we have areas in the city that we already have a setup very, very similar to this, lot lines and things of that nature. They build them to code, right? It changes our tactics associated with fire protection, but it's not uncommon. On the flip side of that, I understand 100% where they're coming from. I grew up in that area, right? I grew up in the same neighborhood that all of you live in today. The residents that they're talking about along South St. Pierre today, if we get an incident at those residents, you're not passing another truck on the side of our fire truck because we have to park in the road. The benefit of what they're setting up or what they're designing, from what I can see on the preliminary picture that I've seen on the plat, is that we can get a fire truck off of Morgan Street or off of Glen Street and park it in the alley behind it where they have a 25-foot easement. So on the flip side of that, there's potential that we can, from a fire side, open up that roadway or have more room to work. I understand their frustration. I'm not going to argue that, but from a public safety aspect, if the vehicles are not parking on the side of South St. Pierre or on the side of Glen or on the side of Morgan Street and they're parking behind it, it's a lot easier for us to operate.
Another question, will this affect our PLA rating?
No, that area is already covered by an engine company. It's already covered by a ladder company. You shouldn't have any issues. You got the adequate water supply in that area to be able to provide it.
There is no more public comment, council discussion.
If they were building to the codes and regulations, there would be 3 houses there. And then you take the downtown overlay district, throw it away. Wouldn't even affect them. I have 40 letters from 40 citizens that they are requesting that we do their will. And I always thought that that's what I came to the council for, is to represent the people. And I'm representing 45 of them, maybe even more than that. Some people told me they wanted to send some more letters in. But I'm representing these 40 people and I'm doing their will because that's what they wanted to do and that's who put me over here to do it. And so I'm voting on behalf of them tonight.
I agree, Dave.
Please come. Yes, sir, Mr. Guidry.
Thanks. Just want to respond to some of the questions and concerns which I understand are valid. The window, the owner agreed to remove the rear window entirety. So that window is going to move to the side so we can eliminate that issue. As a city engineer mentioned, the 6-foot lot line, I agree that it's a little narrower than we're used to. I've done 4 projects in the city where the units are adjacent, butting up against one another. I like the fact that the 6-foot, although small, it has some green space, some separation. So I think it's actually aesthetically pleasing. About the parking, I do agree with Walter regarding the delivery trucks. The only small concern I have is, does it change the aesthetics of the city of Broussard, the downtown area? Because it would be the only one, I think, along Morgan that would have that, the driveway right off of the main street.
That's the only way that they can meet the parking requirements.
Correct.
So, and
unless
it's something you're starting to see downtown as we redevelop downtown. So
sure. So I don't think it's a big concern. I don't. The drainage is, as Walter said, or as you said, Mayor, I'm sorry, they got to go through Walter and get approved. The concerns about the 5 homes, you know, the client had 6 homes, he reduced it to 5. I hear what the public is saying, it's still too much, but for reasons we just described, I think because of the density, and let me say this, the reason why the landowner only has 6 feet between their homes is because he's donating property to the city with the filet, the additional right-of-way that's being called for.
No, they're asking for a waiver of that, to be clear, yeah.
The additional right-of-way, there's 2 right-of-ways, right? The front and the side.
They're asking for a waiver of the additional right-of-way.
The entire.
And the utility easement.
The entire amount?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. So I stand corrected on that one. The one way that you mentioned, I think there's gonna be signs posted whichever direction they go, if it's from Morgan out to Glen or into Glen out to Morgan. I assume that people are gonna continue to go in one direction with the signs, so they don't cause an accident with their own. I hope so they don't cause an accident with their own neighbor. I would hope so. And the fact that the road, a one-way road is narrower than a two-way road, right? So you can only fit one vehicle at a time. I would hope and pray that they all go the same direction. Yeah, right, right. But I would, but I just wanted to respond to the public.
One thing, it sounds like that we cannot, I mean, I don't get a vote on this, but one thing I don't think the council should let go of is at least that fillet, because we cannot improve that intersection without that extra space. Am I correct on that?
To widen, right now, Glen Street is a 30-foot right-of-way. Remember what I said, the standard is 60 feet for open
Yeah.
ditch. The only way to widen Glen, we would need additional, right-of-way for a fillet, but the only way to widen the pavement at the road would be to pipe the ditches on Glen Street, because
Well, for 20 feet, Walter? I mean, is that what we're talking about, just the wing out on the road, Glen to Morgan?
the problem, they already have the proper radius on the fillet. The problem is the street is only 17 and a half feet wide. And about the narrowest street that you can get away with is 2 9-foot lanes, that's 18. That's why everybody's feeling squeezed, because the width of pavement is actually a little, and you say a half a foot, it makes a difference. The problem is from edge of asphalt to edge of right-of-way, there's no room for a ditch anymore. So if you widen the pavement, where does the ditch go? You'd have to pipe it.
I know I'm asking you a question you can't really answer, but what kind of length are we talking about? You're saying we'd have to close ditches on both sides of Glen for a block? Just so we could widen the where the two roads meet?
It's not where the two roads meet, it's Glen is too narrow to begin with.
I understand that, but when you're exiting Glen, you have to enter the opposite lane to take a right. If you give me 5 more feet of asphalt, I won't have to do that give me a wing.
Yeah, we could flare it for a limit, we'd have to look at some, what we call, do an auto turn analysis to see how far back the widening, but we
It's
have
the right. It's when you're coming out of Glen, when you're taking a right,
Well,
you gotta move forward, then
right.
take a right. So,
you'd have to widen the road and increase the flare. You'd have to widen the pavement and increase the flare. Right now, the proper radius is there, but when you widen, that radius isn't good anymore. Then you have to add more radius.
I can keep asking the question till you give me an answer that's acceptable. We need 5 feet, at least. We gotta, no matter what happens
I would
tonight,
say,
that
okay,
has to improve.
right,
But
I would,
when we start talking about, let's close the ditches down Glen, we'll never get there. It's gonna become so complicated and so expensive.
but Ray,
Let's do
Mayor, you're gonna have to close the ditches for a certain length.
Okay,
'Cause we gotta
let's do
widen-
something reasonable,
Yeah.
right? That's all I'm
I
asking.
mean, we could get by with doing half the block with it, flaring out to a wider pavement on half the block.
What'd you think, Mel?
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, we had some residents walk up here tonight and specifically ask about a commitment to do that. It takes a little money, the council's gonna have to support that, but I want something reasonable no matter what, because, I mean, there's plenty of projects sitting on the shelf because we just can't afford them. We're trying to put a solution in, but I got you now. I know you know where we're at. Thank you, Mel.
Well, if it's gonna cost, if it at the city,
Well, no matter what happens tonight, I would like to fix the plan.
the intersection, yeah, but as far as for widening, Glen down the street, without this bill, we wouldn't be doing that, so I don't think the city should have to pay for it, the builder should have to pay for it.
All I'm saying is, even, no matter what happens tonight, that intersection is not up to standard, and we should try to improve it.
I got 1,000.
And I believe
got
we had
1,000.
some requests to do that.
I got 1,000 in the old part of town that's just like that.
Yeah, but you get right more.
All right, let me ask this real quick. There's 5, he said, different waivers. Do we have to blanket vote all 5 of them, or can we break them down? Because some make sense, some don't, some, you
We-
know, there's different aspects to each one that.
We can do them individually. Oscar can guide us through that from the legal standpoint, because some of them, like the fillet, yeah.
So, as I see it, if we have two problems, we don't want the houses, that's a problem we're seeing. We don't want 4 or 5, and you're talking cars, you're talking, but there's something good gonna come out of this if it does happen. Fire department has a place to park, to protect fires. If we do the widening of the road, the citizens gets what they want, widening the road to get out of the intersection. And the developer gets what he wants, he gets to build some homes to beautify the Market Street area. So, well, I think it is. So,
I'll call you up after comments.
so let's be realistic about this and look at not just the negative side of it, the positive side. Well, I do.
Go down Glen Street tomorrow and see how far 5 feet would go from the end of the blacktop. There's not much 5 feet before you get to a fence or to the corner lot on St. Pierre. There's not but 5 feet maybe. So you won't be able to put much of a pipe in the ground if you cover the ditch.
Ms. Colleen, did you want to come forward again?
Yeah, I'm just wanting to clarify, you're claiming that having the so there'd be parking in the front and back of these houses. But those spaces, those 4 parking spaces are supposed to be for the residents of those houses. So if there's 4 cars in each of those, in the front and the back, how is that supposed to help a fire truck if there's cars already in those spots? I'm sorry?
But that's what she's saying, in the front off of Morgan.
Yeah,
If they have
am I
2 spots in
understanding
the
that
front
correctly?
and 2 in the back, to give them their 4. If they're
but-
parking those 2 in the front, there's no room for UPS or FedEx, is what she's
Yeah,
asking.
how would that
Wait,
benefit?
Let me clear something up. The vast majority of the parking is in the rear of the development. We're only, to make their 4 spots per unit quota, they only need 2 in the front.
Which house are those gonna belong to?
But that's what I'm
They're gonna
saying.
have fights, parking, who's gonna park where?
So there's 2 spots that's gonna be in the alley per unit. And
Well,
their
there's
other-
more than, there's 2 more, there, all of the parking in the development is in the alley except for 2 spaces. Which will be 2
per unit
parallel,
in the front.
no, there's 4, you're required to have 4 parking.
Per unit, yes.
No? Correct. That's what we're looking at. So of the 20, 2 of them are parallel spots along Morgan.
So there would be 2 unspecified parallel parking spots in the front of Morgan, facing Morgan, that could belong to any of these 5 houses.
Right.
And could
Actually,
be,
10,
and could
2
be,
per unit.
and could be filled with cars at any given time by the residents of those houses. So it's not like that space is set aside for delivery trucks or fire trucks. They could be filled and therefore not available to help public service vehicles of any kind.
Well, anything is possible, but anywhere in the city of Broussard, except the Old Town Overlay District, our ordinance requires 2 spots per home.
Mhm.
In Old Town Overlay, we did 4 spots per home because the streets are so narrow, if you have overflow situations. most of these units, I would not think will have 4 cars per unit. They're pretty small. No, I mean, these are not 2,500 square foot, single-family residential. They're shotguns is what, technically we call them. 1,400. So I think
Yeah, how many
most of them are gonna have 2 cars per unit. But the extra 2 is for if somebody has a party or it's Super Bowl or whatever, so we're trying to keep parking off the street.
Or emergency vehicles, and that's her point.
Yes.
You see what I'm saying?
But I think the
If
point
people
where-
choose to park in the front of their home and not in the back, that's taken up for UPS, FedEx, emergency service vehicles. It's defeating the
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
purpose.
yeah,
Is what you're saying, and
Yeah,
I understand.
I'm making the point that the argument y'all are, that y'all are making is that this parallel parking in the front would be beneficial for the city because it would provide parallel parking for public service vehicles. And I'm making the point that that is not the case. It belongs to the residents for them to use at any time.
Actually, the parallel spaces are gonna be public parking, because they're gonna be in our right of way.
Okay, hold on. So they're public parking not for the residents, they're public parking, so they don't belong to the residents.
The 2 spaces along Morgan
So they need another variance
are
for
going
that.
to be public parking spaces.
So someone going to church at the Little First Baptist Church could go and park in those 2 spots.
That's public parking.
They'll need a variance for parking also then.
Heather, I seen you looking at me. To clarify my comment, on the plat, there's rear parking, right? And there's a 25-foot easement or one-way driveway where they're able to go through. If they are parked or no cars parked, what I'm saying is, if those spots are not available, that is plenty of room for my people to park a fire truck in the rear of this off of Morgan Street. Right now, y'all see it. If we respond to an incident on Morgan Street, 95% of the houses, we are not turning down the driveway. In this situation, as it's laid out today, I'm telling you that we are capable of doing that with the rear parking. If this was front parking on all of these residents, it would be the same way, where we would be stopping right in the middle of Morgan Street to address what we need to address. But in this situation, we have the capabilities of parking in the back. That's what I was saying.
Thank you, Chief. Ms. Keith, please come to the front.
Question about that. I'm just trying to picture it. Say you're coming off of Glen, and all the houses are here, bing, 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 and then you've got to take a right to get onto Morgan. Say that's the traffic way, or even the opposite way. How tight of turn is that a big truck could not get through and make that turn? Which means to me, you've got to lower the abouts in order to make the turn available for the big vehicles. You're going to have more space here. Back to my point, what would be better?
Any further council discussion?
Well, like I said, I got 40 people that are asking us to do their will. Like I said, 40 people can't be wrong. And I'm asking you to honor their wishes and not give them any variances. If you do 3 houses, we wouldn't be here talking for an hour.
I just want to say that the window placement, which was one of my concerns, and that's been addressed. The Glen Street intersection, Walter, is so, like Ray was saying, something's got to be done anyway. So are we talking about putting a culvert all the way to that exit of the complex there?
I'm thinking that maybe one of the things y'all could consider is if they piped in the ditch along Glen Street, adjoining the thing, if that was part of their requirement, that would give us a little bit of extra room to add about 5 feet of pavement. And then they'd need to give us a little bit of right-of-way at the corner of lot G1B. A little flare so we could extend that out. And that extra 4 or 5 feet would make a pretty big difference.
Now-
But they would have to pipe the ditch.
I'd love to be able to improve that intersection, one way or another.
As-
Is the developer willing to do these requests? Have we talked to the developer?
No, this came up tonight.
Well, one of the requests they made for our parents was to fill it, which you need for us to be able to.
Correct.
And that's why I asked if we could break up the waivers into individual votes
Oh,
instead of voting all together.
Well, you can make your motion for whatever ones you want to include or exclude.
I'll comment. I'm a little conflicted here. I'll put on my developer hat because I do residential development. So the developer hat of me, I understand return on investment. I understand density, that you want to maximize your profit for the land that you purchased. However, I put on my council hat, and in 6.5 or almost 6 years that I've been a councilman, it's very rare that we've had 40+ constituents come together in opposition of an issue. So in that regard, like David said, I kind of want to side with the residents because they have spoken and they've spoken loudly. So I would recommend we go back to the or go back to the table and maybe in a committee meeting to where we can hash out all these variances and bring it back to the council instead of chopping it up in a public forum. If we can get back together with the developer and find a way to maximize the ROI, keep the aesthetic, have public safety, that would be my recommendation.
Can I say something, please? So this whole, how you doing?
Well, I don't have a card on you, so could you introduce yourself for the
My
record?
name is Ibrahim Balbisi. So this whole opposition about the development, if we had the original 3 stories, we'll have the houses. Yes, we'll be close to, they got approved, but to be close to Glen, we'll have windows on the top, windows on the back. We'll have everything that we're trying to get waiver for. These houses are gonna be built not for investments. These houses are gonna be built for families who belong to my family, to my kids. So if we build 3 houses, every complaint that, or I wanna say it, denial that we're trying to get for the windows, the sidewalk, the big walk, which is the houses in the back is the same sizes of the houses we're gonna put in the front. So I don't understand how is like all this trying to be like not to improve Broussard and have nice 5 beautiful houses.
I don't,
Where originally we put 6 and then we backed out to give more for the city for easement and all the requirements. If we build 3 houses, we can stuff more families in there. I mean, we can put 3 houses, put 4 or 5 families in each house, have more color parking, more trouble, more traffic, and use it as an investment. I can do that tomorrow. I'm trying to make it better and looks better because I love Broussard.
sure, and listen, I'm gonna speak, I agree with Jesse, I'm not a developer, so I don't have that hat, but I do have the council, and this is in my district, and it's 40 or so of people that, you know, trusted me to have this seat. And I understand what you're saying about you love Broussard, and it is gonna make Broussard better, and it is gonna help the fire department. But I also have to wonder what it's gonna do to the residents and their quality of living in that area as far as traffic and everything is concerned. Again, that's why I wanted to break up the waivers and vote on each one in particular. That way we make it feasible for you and your family to live there, but also make it right for the rest of the people that have been there for many, many years.
We accepted most of the city variance they asked for. We accepted 95%. We asked for a couple of waivers to not make it more clutter. And if we build 3 houses in there, every objection that we had today is gonna be in there because they already got being approved.
Sure, but a lot of times you have to do what's best for the
I
mass.
could have
not
done
the-
it, and I don't wanna build 3 houses and use them as a business.
And we couldn't have stopped you.
I know, but what are you trying to stop me for? I could have made it. I could have done it. I could have went, have 5 families in each house. I could have built 3 complexes and have more traffic. I could have done it. We're trying to be fair over here. We're trying to show that we are trying to make nice one shotgun houses that is gonna look exactly the same as New Orleans, same as Broussard, old school downtown street.
Ibrahim,
That's
let
not
me
what-
clarify
that's not what
something for
Broussard
you.
looks like.
You would not, under the Old Town Overlay District, you would not be able to put up 3 individual multifamily units. That would, no, what he's saying is he could put 3 and cram 5 family. You can't do that because it's not by lot, it's by unit. We anticipated that so you could put 3 single-family residential structures on this property and not trigger the Old Town Overlay District. You could not put 3 multifamily structures. That would immediately trigger it. You'd be right back.
Been working with the developer to hone this thing down to where it is, because it was much more of there were many more problems than this. And I know it took a lot of work for everybody to get there. But the only way waivers get through, we have the ordinances on the books. Right now, this cannot be built in Broussard unless the council is the lawmaking body of the city, approves that those things will be acceptable. So, Councilman Reagan made a suggestion. We would need, to table the item if we're gonna travel that path.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to table the item, and I'd also like to add in that motion that we not charge the developer any further fees for coming back to the table to discuss this and hash it out. I know that we've been back and forth on this development since December of last year. I know that there's fees incurred every time. So if we're gonna play nice in the sandbox, I'd ask that we work with him and not charging him any additional fees moving forward.
We don't, at this point, we are not charging additional fee. That's contemplated in something y'all are looking at later. Right now, we do not charge additional fee. So, and for something like this, I don't think the mayor would, he wants people to negotiate. We don't want to discourage that, I wouldn't think, so.
Yes, ma'am, you have a comment for the council?
Yes.
Please introduce yourself for the record.
Morgan Hicks. I live at 405 South St. Pierre. This is my first council meeting. And what does tabling it mean?
Tabling, it means it will be, no action tonight, and it
Okay.
will be held till the next meeting, or within 30 days, Oscar? Within 30 days, it'll have to be on one of the next 2 council meetings back for a final decision.
Okay, so it doesn't get done like behind doors and
Oh, no, no, no,
Okay.
there's no approvals that can be done except in the public view. Tabling or simply pauses it so more meetings can happen before it comes back and we go through it same way.
Love it.
And Mayor, correct me if I'm wrong, when we bring it back, it could look different at that point, or is it gonna be?
Oh, it could look different. I mean, we have a submission, so if there's an agreement to change anything, then the engineer, the developer kind of resubmits, because we need to know exactly what's being asked of the council. That's, all that work Walter did was to get it down to say, these are the 6 approvals that we're looking for. When the rules are followed at 100%, they never come to the council. They go to planning, they get approved, you met all the rules, you're good. But when those variances are needed, the council is the only lawmaking body that has authority to approve that.
Is there a way for us to see that before the meeting? Like, to see what the proposal
Well,
is?
yeah,
Okay.
it is. I mean, it's in the packet, which is available online and published in the newspaper. So, or you can contact us at City Hall and we'll get it emailed to you. That's no problem. But it is there. It's on public record roughly a week before the council meeting. So everything is transparent. People have time to study everything we do before it gets to this point.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much. So we have a motion to table by Councilman Reagan.
I'll second the motion.
Do we have a call for the question?
District 3,
Yes.
District 4?
Yes.
District 5?
Yes.
At large? District 1?
Yes.
District 2?
Yes.
Motion approved.
Okay. Resolutions, item 5.1, resolution number 803-24, a resolution approving the substantial completion of the Albertsons Villa Lift Station betterment design. Do we have a motion to approve?
Second.
Mr. Daniel Hutchinson, who is our presenter tonight on this? There's Daniel. Thank you, Daniel.
Good afternoon. This is for the council for a substantial completion of the Albertsons Villas lift station, which is the lift station we put on Albertsons Parkway. We decommissioned the BO trailer park. Mel and I did a walkthrough. Everything's good. There's a few minor punch list items that the contractor has to do. It's operational now. It's working. Everything's flowing.
All 154 units are flowing to there now?
I don't think they're inhabited right now, but they are connected. Yes.
Thank you, Daniel. Public comment, Tina?
No public comment.
Council discussion?
District 4?
Yes.
District 5?
Yes.
At large? District 1?
Yes.
District 2?
Yes.
District 3?
Yes.
Motion approved.
Item 5.2, resolution number 804-24, a resolution approving the Louisiana Systems Compliant Questionnaire for the period covering July 1st, 2023 through July 30th, 2024. Do we have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Second.
This questionnaire is something that we do every year as part of, it starts the process for our audit. Correct me if I'm wrong, Kristen. We fill it out, we name who the council is, who all the, in different departments, who's running those departments. We send it into the state, and then it will begin our auditing process. Public comment, Tina?
No public comment.
Council discussion?
Question.
District 5?
Yes.
At large? District 1?
Yes.
District 2? District 3?
Yes.
District 4? Motion approved.
Item 5.3, resolution number 805-24, resolution approving the active dedication of all streets and right-of-ways in Oakmount subdivision from Garber Subdivision LLC. Do we have a motion to approve?
Second.
So Mr. Daniel or Mr. Mel, I think, can comment on this one, accepting these street.
Yes, they've presented all of the items in their closeout package. We've done a punch list. They've addressed all the punch list items. I think, Mel, they've coordinated with you on what they have, and so
Yes,
everything's good.
we did a final inspection, as Daniel said. We generated a punch list. They've addressed all of that. We've inspected that. Everything is where we need it. We are satisfied.
And they've got all of their as-built, the electronic as-built, all of their closeout package has been submitted. Yes, sir.
Tina, do we have public comment?
No public comment.
Council discussion?
At large? District 1?
Yes.
District 2?
Yes.
District 3?
Yes.
District 4? District 5? Oh,
Yeah.
motion approved.
Ordinances for introduction. Item 6.1, ordinance number 24-808, an ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances to add section 62-2103 relating to peddlers, solicitors, and vendors. Do we have a motion to introduce?
Motion.
Second.
Councilman Forbes is the councilman that brought this change to the city's attention. So, Councilman, could you give an explanation of the changes?
No, yeah. So just to go over this real quick, in the city of Broussard, in certain districts, mainly with the highly residential areas, solicitors, peddlers of sort, they, while and let me say this first, while I respect the businessman and a man to go and try to sell for his company, I also respect the privacy and our neighbors in general, on their time on the weekends and their time after work with their family, not getting disrupted by this. So basically what this does is it puts the soliciting from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday to Friday, no weekends and no holidays. So it basically it puts it where it's not going to be as bothersome for the community in general, and that's pretty much the gist of it, Mayor.
The city does require a license for this sort of peddling in the city, so it would all be combined, with the changes David mentioned.
David, is that all encompassing, or does somebody have to put a sign that says no solicitation for it to?
So in this instance, if someone were to put no trespassing or no solicitor sign on their house or in their flower bed or whatever, this would exclude the solicitor from going and knocking on the door. If the solicitor does go and there is a complaint filed, that person, I want to say, will be fined $300, and they could lose their permit for up to 18 months.
That works for businesses as well?
No, this is just residential, and this does not include politicking door to door, religious, Jehovah's Witnesses, that kind of thing. It's just basically any soliciting of a product to the residents.
Tina, do you have public comment?
No public comment.
Any further council discussion?
Question.
District 1,
Yes.
District 2,
Yes.
District 3,
Yes.
District 4.
Yes.
District 5,
Yes.
at large. Motion approved.
Item 6.2, ordinance number 24-809, an ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances regulating the governing of subdivisions of land in the city of Broussard. Do we have a motion to introduce?
Make a motion. Second.
Our presenter tonight is Mrs. Mallory Hutchinson. Welcome, Mallory. Please try to keep it under 45 minutes.
Yes, sir.
If you would.
So you should have in your packet the proposed changes to the subdivision ordinance. The first sheet, we put like a little table of contents in there for y'all with the page numbers so you can flip quickly to the sections. And we do have the changes noted in red just so that it's very simple for you to see what's being changed. I'm not going to go through all of them. I'm just going to hit high points and then answer any questions if you guys have any. On page 10, we are adding a resubmission fee. I know that Councilman Reagan just brought this up, and there is no resubmission fee currently. The problem that we were having is that we are getting extremely substandard submissions, causing numerous back and forths, and the more that we go back and forth, the more the city has to pay for it. And so this resubmission fee would sort of help to cover those costs for people who are not meeting the very minimum standards that we expect of a professional engineer to submit when they're submitting signed documents.
They're a little less likely to have fishing expeditions when you gotta pay for every cast. And that's what's happening right now. We're just getting junky stuff, hoping we're gonna have, a stroke and not review it. So what we're saying is, before you make this second junky submission, think about it, because you're paying every time you do it.
Well, and if there's anyone thinking that maybe that's a little unfair to the developer, based on the committee meeting we had, I believe it was Councilman Delahousie that made the suggestion, we have a checklist that must be, check the boxes that you're supplying everything we're requiring, and then sign it.
Right.
Then you turn it in. So it would only be in a breach of that agreement that this would come up.
Correct. And since you're bringing that up, we did, with Councilman Delahousie's suggestion, we did put together a checklist for the minimum requirements that we have for a submittal. We also have a checklist, the development closeout guide. So these are the expectations for when you're ready to schedule your final walkthrough with Mel. And both of these documents we are proposing to be signed when the preliminary plat is submitted. That way, up front, we know that you understand the requirements, so that if you do submit something substandard, we already know that you've been made aware of the minimum of what we need. And I want to stress minimum. We're not asking for anything over the top, outrageous. So we do have that in here as an appendix. On page 11 is an addition of an infrastructure fee. And so, we have written in here that the purpose of this is to offset the future impact of residential development on city infrastructure. I don't know if you want to expound on that, Ray, at all, but when something is built, it obviously is going to cause a strain on the existing infrastructure that the city has. This fee is going to help offset some of those costs, enable to support the new development.
I was just gonna expand on what you said. You nailed it as far as for the strain that it's gonna put on our city services. We put this impact fee, it's a one-time infrastructure fee for new builders per unit, per lot, when they take the building permit. And it's put in place because we don't have the benefit of property taxes. So as we grow, we don't have any return on investment that we can quantify other than sales tax. So we just decided, I think City of Youngsville's at $2,500 per unit. So we did $1,000 a unit to help us with city services as we grow the city.
And this is something that can be paid upfront or as individual building permits are pulled for lots, whichever way the developer chooses to handle that. Let's see, page 13. This has to do with public hearing notice, and all that we did here was clarify that the city is not going to request anything more than what the state requires for public notice. Just so we're sticking with state guidelines, we're not going above and beyond that. Let's see, page 19, this, so we added the blurb about what I mentioned earlier, that the 2 documents in the back are going to be required to be signed when the preliminary plat is submitted to show their understanding of those documents. And page 39 at the top talks about dumpsters not being allowed in public right-of-ways. I believe that Councilman Forbes has some comment on that.
Yeah, so this was put in due to, just like you said, dumpsters being in the roadway in neighborhoods that are being developed. While you might have the back end of the neighborhood developed, if they're still developing on the front end and you have dumpsters in the road, when traffic's coming through and you got kids on bicycles, maybe on the other side of the dumpster, you can't see, or just, and anything in general, it obstructs the view. And it also creates confusion with drivers in the neighborhood trying to get in and out. So I think it'd be feasible to not have it in the roadway.
And most cities have that rule where the home builder must put his dumpster on the lot that he owns, not in the public right of way.
So, like I said, those are just sort of high points. If y'all have any specific questions, some things were just a matter of cleaning up the document itself, but
Tina, is there any public comment?
No public comment.
Any council discussion?
District 2,
Yes.
District 3,
Yes.
District 4,
Yes.
District 5,
Yes.
at large, District 1. Yes. Motion approved.
Item 6.3, ordinance number 24-810, an ordinance amending the operating budget of revenues and expenditures for the year 2024, 2025 to increase authorized expenditures for the downtown Main Street improvements Phase 2A, 2B, 2C. Do we have a motion to introduce?
I'll move. Second.
Our presenter tonight is Mr. Joseph Marino. Welcome, Joseph, with DDG engineering firm to give us an overview of the project.
Thank you for the introduction, and good news is presentation should only take about an hour.
That's good.
But I was advised to keep it to 5 minutes, so I'll keep it to 5 minutes. So let's see if this little clicker works here. Perfect. So I believe at this point, everybody's pretty familiar with the Main Street project. Phase 1 has happened. Phase 3 is under construction. Looking into Main Street to close it out, phase two, which is the heart of downtown Broussard. But part of this budget is also to extend beyond phase two a little bit. So I'll go into a little bit of that detail, but really want to focus right now on the infrastructure for downtown. I put as a supplemental to your packet some pictures. I've got more pictures in the slideshow, kind of dumbed it down to your packet, but really just wanted to stress the issues with the catch basins and drainage downtown. So here in the picture you see, we've got standing water in catch basins, silt sediment in the catch basin. It's old. It's really deteriorating at this point. Some more catch basins just full of sediment, silt. This is old brick catch basin. Another one to the point where you've got vegetation growing. It's got a lot of silt and sediment in the bottom of it. This one is holding water. We never really want to see that if we can avoid it. So that's causing some issues with the capacity in the system. Another one where just the catch basin itself is falling apart. Some issues that we're having. More growth and vegetation in the catch basin, which is something that you really don't want to see. This one is hard to see, but it's really, some of them are falling apart even on the inside. And then more vegetation. And then this one is an old one that's got even like the old 2x4 wood down into the bottom. So in addition to just the drainage in the catch basin, the sidewalks are an issue downtown. Some of them are crumbling, most of which are not ADA compliant, ADA being the Americans with Disabilities Act. An improvement to downtown as part of this phase two budget will be an increase to parking. So there's limited parking right now for the businesses downtown. So overall, this will be a net gain in parking for the businesses. There will be on-street parking that we're adding. Another part of this project that's happening is replacement of the old cast iron water line. So not just the drainage, but the water infrastructure is old, and that's being replaced.
It's an abandonment, actually.
Abandonment.
To get the system off of it, and we'll feed it from a street behind, about one block over.
That's
So
right.
we need to take it offline in order to do that.
So by abandoning it, will help declutter the utilities. There's tons of utilities, telecom, electrical, gas, this water. Getting rid of the water, the abandonment will help declutter everything. Additionally, the gas company, CenterPoint, they noticed and they got on board. They're also going to abandon their gas main too. So they're pulling their gas main off of Main Street, and they're going to serve all their services off of the side streets as well. So they're the gas company is investing some money into downtown Broussard. The project's encompassing a lot, so you'll probably notice there's a lot of bumpy asphalt as you approach the intersection of Morgan and Main, as opposed to beyond it where it's a lot smoother. So we'll be milling and overlaying the intersection right there. It's going to smooth it out, and that's essentially the old portion that DOTD used to own at the intersection, and we're repaving that.
And that's going in 4 directions, correct, Joe?
That's in all 4 directions, on Main Street and Morgan Street.
Right. This project goes from the intersection of Morgan and Main all the way to the railroad tracks.
Correct.
Then it comes the other way up Morgan, past Tons. How far does
it goes to Tons? You said Tons. It goes to Clare Street.
it goes to? Okay.
Which is where the sidewalk currently stops. The sidewalk and the lighting currently stops at Clare Street.
No, I meant the opposite way on Morgan. Past
Oh,
Tons.
on Morgan, you talk about Morgan. I
Yeah.
apologize. So, well, the overlay is going to continue. It goes just past Tons. If you're going south, as far as the overlay, that's where you get into some better pavement. And then north to about BJ's, just past BJ's is where the pavement gets better. So all that asphalt that's falling apart is going to be milled and overlaid.
But the improvement on the sidewalks and the crumbling sidewalks that are on that side in front of BJ's all the way to the railroad tracks, basically, we're fixing all that as well. The road overlay is one thing, but the sidewalks that need repair.
The sidewalks from BJ's to the tracks,
Mhm.
that currently is not in the budget right now.
Okay, we better look at that.
We can look at that. We can look at
Because
that.
they need they need attention, you know?
Yes. But we will definitely take that into consideration for sure.
I think you're wrong. I think it is in the budget.
Okay.
But
It might, it is now. No. So, we can definitely work through that, work with the city to, accommodate. There's some, I guess some value engineering that we're able to do with making the drainage more efficient. So there's going to be a little bit of wiggle room with the budget to
now
accommodate
it's,
some of that.
you mentioned the drainage. Just want to kind of point out that it's above, at least or above 95% of the drainage downtown on Main Street is getting changed in this project.
That's correct.
Which is Clara to
St.
DePorres, right?
That's right.
So we've got some significant problems there, but we're not trying to salvage anything there, or it
We are
just
not.
needs to be changed.
That's right. It's old. If y'all remember about a year and a half ago, we had to go through an emergency project to remove and replace a box culvert in front of St. Cecilia. So the quality and condition that box culvert is the same quality and condition that all the other drainage is in right now on Main Street. Safety, last but not least, would be safety for this corridor of Main Street. So in front of St. Cecilia, there's a lot of traffic for church, for school. There's some pedestrian crossings, but we're going to really isolate a spot for pedestrians to safely cross. We'll have some nice, vibrant, flashing yellow lights, which you probably see on in Lafayette near Stoller off Rue Louis. So very similar to that, nice crossing to allow for pedestrians to cross after church and before church. The path, the multi-use path, we're going to continue the 10-foot path. It's going to be ADA compliant. We'll have a 6-foot sidewalk on the opposite side of the street, on the north side of the street, that will be ADA compliant. So again, making the road, the pedestrian path more safe. And then the lighting. So we'll continue the lighting that we have, very similar to phase 1. It won't be as close as it currently is. We're going to spread it out. We're able to do that by having a little bit taller light. And that's going to allow us to space it out so it won't look so tight, I guess. That is planned. So that's the infrastructure in a nutshell. Beyond the infrastructure, we are going to spend some time looking into the beautification of it. Really not going overkill and spending a ton of money, but doing it tastefully as it relates to beautifying, first and foremost, the intersection at Morgan and Main. Looking at doing basically a stain at the intersection. We're going to elevate what we call a speed table, the intersection, so the road itself will be at the same grade as the pedestrian crossings. So that's going to happen there. We'll have some trees, some low maintenance shrubs. We're looking at doing some heavy duty like wrought iron fencing to kind of accent the intersection. We're also looking at painting the traffic poles black to match all the other lights the decorative lights that we're putting on the street. Beyond that, that's right, stain. So with the gears being the staple for Broussard, one of the staples for Broussard, the idea came to fruition to put the stain of gears in the middle of the intersection. So it'll be a concrete intersection, and we'll be able to stain it, use some templates to create the look of gears, which this page is also in your packet. So beyond that, we're looking, this is flying into, so this is phase 2 and beyond. So we're also looking to enhance some of the other areas outside of phase 2. So this actually falls out within the limits of phase 3. This is across from Coastal on Main Street, where we've recently relocated Highway 731. It's near the old Y Cafe intersection where currently the Saks Condos is. And more or less, it's an area where, again, you see the gears. This red, yellow, blue demarcations are essentially going to be a fiberglass or a steel gear, 3 to 4 feet tall, that'll be embedded in the ground. It seems like fiberglass is probably the best option. It's lighter weight than steel. Painted And then essentially it will accent this little spot where, you know, people can come take pictures, but also beautify this intersection. That's correct. So you see it ties directly into our 6-foot sidewalk, which is going to be on the north side of the street. And then as people are going, passing from the Saks or anywhere along here to Arsenal Park and beyond, they can stop here to take a break. Beyond this, one thing that's historic to Broussard are the horse rings. There's not many that are around still, but there are a few. There's a few in front of the house of Broussard, which Mel and his team, I believe, are going to meticulously chip away and pull it out of the concrete. So we have like the actual original ones. Take those, put them on a bronze plaque, and kind of place them at a few locations with a story behind them. So this is a little template of what that story might look like. Place on a little pedestal, maybe about 3 feet tall or so kids can touch it and read it, as well as adults be able to visually look at it. So beyond that would be something that is not in your packet, but very close to here is, you can actually see it on the board. We can come look at it if y'all like, but just adjacent to behind here, trying to get my bearings, behind here, we have the police parking lot. Adjacent to the police parking lot between it and City Hall is some City of Broussard property that Mel and his team currently utilize for water. So they don't have that same need anymore. So we're looking to convert that to like a little gathering area with some additional parking. So we've got a little parking lot that we can put back there and get.
Can I expand on that, Joseph?
Sure.
You're almost saying it correctly. This building will not be used daily once the police department moves into their building. So it gives us the advantage of having a parking lot for when we have events like Noël à Broussard and we're doing sort of the Christmas street fair. So duration of this parking lot, maybe adding some cement. The council had already approved money for the demolition of the old treatment plant, which is the large metal building next door. We just haven't been able to do that yet because Mel had some work to get the well online a certain way, and there's some electrical work that needs to be done. So we're going to handle that as we are decommissioning a water tower for the rehabilitation, which is already funded. I think our bids came in well below our estimate on that project this week. So that, I would think, be presented at the next council meeting. But it gives the city an opportunity to make this parking more useful, opens up some green space between here and City Hall, and allows us some more gathering space for those street fair type events that we're doing. Something really simple, maybe put a sidewalk around the green space, get a sidewalk to Main, but we need some elbow room. Everybody has been to Noël and Broussard knows where we need some elbow room there. So it's just a cheap use of the space, I think, and using what we have, which is this parking lot. I know Chief won't miss it once it's gone, right? So thank you, Joe. Sorry.
Well, more elegantly put than I did, but great little space, cost effective, put tents, lights, the whole 9 yards. We're planning for a sidewalk to connect that parking lot to Main Street to our 10-foot path. Currently, there's nothing along there. You have to walk in the street to get from one to the other. So we'll put a little sidewalk there, 5-foot sidewalk, to have a little safe access for people from one spot to the other. And what you see up here is additionally a couple of little options for a new entry sign to Arsenal Park. Obviously, the park's getting upgrades at some point in time. The old sign that was there is old, outdated, and as we beautify the area, looking at a few options here to improve and enhance the entrance into Arsenal Park. Stay within the theme. You can see the finials attached to the top. The one on the left resembles the entry feature that we have at Main Street in South Bernard. It's a scaled down version of it. And then additionally, looking at some sort of entry sign if you're coming into town from Howerton Parkway near Celebrity Drive, somewhere over there, looking at the tourism kiosk area across from Waffle House. I believe that's it.
I just want to put one thing on the record, Joseph. The way we have the item listed is specifically improvements for phase 2A, B, and C. Once we were kind of getting prepared for this meeting and this presentation, we realize that's not 100% accurate, so I'm gonna have it adjusted for the next meeting because some of the beautification that we're doing extends out of 2, some is into 3. We may choose to put a gear near the oak tree in A. We want some flexibility there, and the reason we were doing that is because when we build a gear or these sorts of things, we want to build them all at once. We didn't want to go build 3 when we need 7 or 8 or 10. So it made sense to kind of group this stuff, and here was the opportunity to do that. But it needs correction, and I'm going to make sure it's corrected before the next meeting.
Right. Yep. Technicality for sure.
I have a question about
Yes, sir.
this diagram about, around Tons, Maine and Morgan. These green things, are those bushes, trees, or what?
The green things are little trees, little bushes. The more rounder ones are like ornamental trees, and the smaller ones would just be shrubs.
It's not a good place for them.
So it's still a work in progress.
Okay.
And the direction that's been given is to be like low maintenance and limited. So there's definitely the opportunity.
Well, I know we have some islands on North Morgan, yes, towards the railroad track. They take up probably 2 parking spots each, and the maintenance crew has to go over there.
With the trees
clean
in
them up
there.
and mow 'em, and, I mean, I think that's a waste of space, especially at that corner right there. You can look over this again.
So your thought is that it's a maintenance, more of a maintenance than.
Well, and it's especially at this intersection, it's turning, and I mean, it's just crammed up there. Because right here, you're gonna be taking the shoulder, which is actually some parking spot.
So we are maintaining.
They don't park right.
We are maintaining all parking spots. There's definitely a net gain. There's one that is likely going to be lost near House of Broussard. But the idea here, like this is the heart of downtown Broussard.
The 2 at the top, is that public property where those 2 are, or do you just?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So that's between BJ's and, that little house or whatever, it's a business, I think,
Between BJ's, where people park right there, going to BJ's, that is public, that's in the right of way.
Joseph is right. There is across this project, there's a significant gain of public parking spots, which we were looking for because that was one of the things identified in our original downtown master plan is that we are short on parking. A lot of small lots, a lot of Gerard's Cleaners was a great example of that. There is 0 parking. So, you know, if the city expects to grow in that capacity with downtown businesses, we're going to have to assist with some parking to make it work. So you've been able to find some, and we're still sort of on the lookout for more public parking wherever we can add it.
Plus improving some of the existing places that people do park. So instead of parking on gravel, getting out and walking on gravel, those areas where people have historically parked on gravel are now going to be paved concrete.
In front of Sacred Heart Church is a good example of that.
Yep, and across the street.
So no more loose gravel. Everything's.
That's correct. All the gravel's coming out.
It's not gonna roll into pipes anymore.
That's right.
Half of the pipes are probably gravel right now.
That's what you saw earlier was the inlet and gravel, and all that gravel ends up in the inlet. Mm-hmm.
So there will certainly be more planning meetings that you can be in, any councilman could be involved with. We're going to have some meetings with the stakeholders. This project is set up to be white glove service because interfering, I think you have it carved into 3 sections.
That's right.
We have to maintain access for every homeowner, every business owner through construction. And we're going to have to cater to their needs because it's not fun having construction equipment in front of your house or business, but the long-term gain is going to be there for Broussard. I mean, we see what we're getting in phase 1. You're about to see it in phase 2, which is being public, 3B, which is being publicly bid now. But it's going to take some effort and some close hand holding for this project.
We have strategically looked at the sequence of construction so that no one individual homeowner or property owner is affected during the entirety of the project because it will last for a while. So we've broken it down into 3 phases, 2A, 2B, 2C, which is where the nomenclature came from earlier. And we're really requiring specifying the contractor to do C or A first, and then complete it entirely, all components of it, because they're independent. They can be built independently from one another, and then come back and do B, which is right what you're looking at
And
right
there's
here.
some seasonal concerns. For instance, when St. Cecilia School is out for the summer, is a great time to be working in front of there. But there's a fishing store at the corner here, so December is a pretty good month to be working in front of the store. But
So that sequencing allows for some flexibility to accommodate.
So we're gonna be, we're gonna have some stakeholder meetings, but just wanted to say that we're taking the, comfort of the stakeholders there very seriously. We do the best we can to work with them and make it as painless as possible. Tina, do you have public comment?
No public comment.
Any further council discussion?
District 3,
Yes.
District 4,
Yes.
District 5,
Yes.
at large. District 1. Yes. District 2,
Yes.
motion approved.
Ordinances for adoption. Item 7.1, ordinance number 24-805, an ordinance amending the 2024-2025 operating budget of revenues and expenditures up to $11,000 for police equipment. Do we have a motion to adopt? We have a motion and a second. This item was presented at the last meeting. Tina, do you have public comment?
No public comment.
Council discussion?
Question.
District 4.
Yes.
District 5,
Yes.
at large. District 1. Yes. District 2.
Yes.
District 3,
Yes.
motion approved.
Item 7.2, ordinance number 24-806, an ordinance declaring certain property salvage and authorizing the disposition of railroad flat cars. Do we have a motion to adopt?
Second.
Tina, do you have public comment?
No public comment.
Council discussion?
District 5,
Yes.
at large. District 1. Yes. District 2.
Yes.
District 3.
Yes.
District 4.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Item 7.3, ordinance number 24-807, an ordinance granting a waiver for the Villas at Albertsons LLC regarding sidewalks. Do we have a motion to adopt?
Second.
Tina, do you have public comment?
No public comment.
This item was presented at the last meeting. Council discussion?
Well, I'm gonna repeat myself like I did, same thing I said last week. Somebody gotta build the first sidewalk on that street. And since Cliff broke dirt first, I don't see why he shouldn't build it. He signed the contract, and he should build what he signed. He should do what he signed.
Council discussion.
Question.
At large. District 1. Yes. District 2.
No.
District 3.
Yes.
District 4.
Yes.
District 5.
Yes.
Motion approved.
That was the last item on our agenda. I would like to invite and remind everyone that we have coffee and Broussard at Préjean's this week from 7 a.m. to 8:30. So come out and visit with us and have a cup of coffee. We hope to see you there. Thank you for being here tonight. Meeting adjourned.